today we have a very special guest joining us. We have the CEO of ROPCA, Johannes. Johannes, great to have you on today. Really appreciate your time today. It'd be great if you could give the audience just an introduction to yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. So, my name is Johannes Schaeferhoff, and I'm the CEO of ROPCA, and I've been with ROPCA for a little longer than a year now. I previously had a long career at a company called Arthritis, where I was part of a very successful and I think exciting growth story where the company became the market leader in sports medicine, and it was a founder-led and is still a founder-led company. So to some extent, I think it often still felt like a very big startup. So I've had some of that pleasure, and I had different roles in my journey there. I worked in sales, and I had some sales teams that I led, and also worked with distributors, changed distributors to direct distribution, and build up a department that was focused on health economics, market access, and pricing in Germany. And also at the very end, I started a business unit for Arthritis that was focused on the ambulatory market in Germany. So I really had a lot of different experiences, and it was a really great journey. Prior to that, I worked in management consulting for a company called Carney. And I have a business background, and now I'm in robotics in healthcare. I think that's really exciting.
No, that's great, and thanks for the introduction. Now, obviously, you've had quite a extensive career working with Arthritis, but now you are the CEO at ROPCA, which is obviously extremely exciting. It'd be great if you could tell the audience a little bit about ROPCA and what they're aiming to do.
Yeah, so at ROPCA, we have created what we call ARTHA, which stands for the Arthritis ultrasound robot. And ARTHA is the world's first autonomous ultrasound robot. It scans hands autonomously with the patient. So it does not require a doctor or a nurse to be present while the robot is scanning the hands. And then it also provides decision support for the clinician in the form of a color-coded report, which gives a very fast overview. And then it annotates anatomical structures and provides an assessment of the situation. Our goal is to really improve the availability of ultrasound, and as a first step, really solve the issue of large and long waiting times in the area of rheumatology, where patients in most of Europe and most of the world really face a shortage of clinicians in this field.
Yeah, that's great, and definitely such a worthwhile course that can really affect people's lives moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely, exactly, massively. The disease is really a debilitating disease, and if it goes untreated for longer times, it's leading to poorer outcomes than could actually be achieved with the available drugs. I think there have been huge strides in the drugs. So if the disease is treated fast enough, you can actually achieve very good results in this area. The critical thing is that you just get the people on the medicine fast enough, and currently that's really a struggle. In the UK, for example, where I think you're based, there is really an uneven distribution of rheumatologists, and also of this waiting time I mentioned. In some places, it's a very long wait, and in some places, I think it's also quite fast. But there are still many patients that wait a long time to get a diagnosis for the disease.
Yeah, of course, and that's obviously such a big issue, and this is where your robot can come in and really make a difference.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we are hoping. We're really hoping to make a difference in the lives of patients and improve their outcomes. And and function of their joint. I mean, having, our hands are so important today. I mean, previously, obviously, they were also important. You need them to eat, but you also today, with the arrival of the smartphones and even with computers, I mean, you can't function very easily without using your hands. So impairment there is a big problem. We also want to, of course, help the workforce of rheumatologists and the nurses involved, because if you work in an overcrowded but understaffed department, that's also a big challenge. And in Germany, there were some studies that indicated that quite a lot of the clinicians are quite fed up with such situations. So we also hope to to create an improvement in their lives, that we can hopefully provide solutions that that automate simple tasks that are maybe also less exciting for the clinical staff, and bring the clinical staff into situations where their expertise is really required.
Yeah, excellent. And obviously being able to help the clinicians to spend more time on what they want to do and actually care for the patients, instead of having to go through all sort of the waiting times to get their patients actually seen to, is such an important aspect. And having a robot that can do that is obviously going to really change the way they work.
Yeah, yes, exactly. I think that's an important point, because I think currently, like when I talk to rheumatologists, there's typically a consensus that the referral process from a general practitioner, or sometimes also for example in Germany, from an orthopedic doctor often to a rheumatologist, that referral process is really where we could critically impact society and also the clinicians. So there are in many markets, and many patients referred, and they are often not very well documented in that referral, and that makes it tough to prioritize the right patients to be seen. And it also makes it tough for the patients, because I mean, just imagine when you read on the internet about this disease, it's like you read things like bone erosion after 6 weeks. You read things, and then you see images of mangled hands, and it must be quite frightening and lead to anxiety in the patients when they read this, and then they notice that their appointment is in 6 months' time. So I think with equipping the patient with better documentation before they arrive at the rheumatologist office, will really unclog some of this weight, and make sure that the right patients go to the clinician, and the clinician then can help these people. Whereas a lot of the other people have the frustration of having waited a long time in the wrong queue. And I mean, we all know that when you wait in the wrong queue and you realize, the other queue, moved along while you were standing there in the wrong queue, that's also a massively frustrating and costly mistake. So we hope to really, like in that area, to really make a fast and significant dent in the system, and really improve the situation for staff and patients.
Yeah, excellent. Obviously, it says just behind you, transforming healthcare with AI and robotics. Just how much do you think the world of AI and robotics can actually transform the healthcare industry?
I think that both are huge subjects. I mean, there's obviously a lot of companies that are working with and on AI to improve healthcare, and I believe that AI on its own has very big possibilities to impact healthcare. I mean, we have made big strides in pattern recognition in images, and I think there's big potential just there. But I also think that this intersection of AI and robotics, where we are, is exciting, because most of the robots that you see in use today, at least clinically, are telemanipulation devices. So they give, I mean, you could kind of, in a very simplified kind of way, you could kind of say that they give the clinician superpowers, higher accuracy, more reproducible movement, but they still need to be operated by a clinician. And in my view, there's going to be, the demographics that we face mean that we have fewer clinicians that are actually working and more people that will require healthcare. And in my view, having AI help a robot become autonomous is therefore a really big deal, because if the robot through AI, like in our case, for example, becomes autonomous, then it can really save the time for humans working in healthcare. And I think that also will become increasingly important as the workforce in healthcare is obviously also aging. So I guess if we have an older workforce, maybe we cannot expect them to do the same, let's say, hard labor. And scanning over and over again is definitely also hard labor. So I think robotics and AI could really also help us perform some of the physical tasks that AI on its own can't solve.
Yeah, of course, and like you say, with the sort of the aging demographic within sort of healthcare professionals, having sort of AI and robotics can sort of really help them just focus on what's important, and that's obviously the patient's care, and also will allow them to perform more procedures at a better standard, because they'll be less sort of fatigued due to the nature of the work they do.
Yes, and yeah, exactly, absolutely. I think that that's important. What I could also imagine is important to some of the healthcare professionals is that I think many healthcare professionals in the past have worked very long hours and have typically not had the benefit of working remotely or part-time or flex time. And I know that, for example, in Denmark, we recently had a call where the politicians called for people on part-time to go full-time again. Many of them won't want to do that. So if we can find solutions where maybe our technology enables these healthcare workers to also have asynchronous work, so that, let's say, a patient would come in and get scanned by Arthur when maybe the doctor is already home with their kids, but then the doctor can either later or early in the morning review some of this work and then instruct somebody to either call patients in for physical visits, or tell patients that they don't have this, for example, our disease, rheumatoid arthritis, and they need to see their general practitioner or somebody else again. So I think if we can contribute a small part to making their work life for the clinicians better, that's also a big contribution.
Yeah, definitely, and obviously Arthur and Diana, your robot and AI. Just how autonomous is that, and how much can that sort of reduce the workload for the clinicians?
Yeah, so it is actually quite autonomous. So when a patient comes in, the essentially the AI in our solution, in our machine, it helps the robotic arm understand where it needs to land the ultrasound probe. So we use a three-dimensional image of the hand to determine landing sites. And then while we are scanning, we have another separate AI look at the ultrasound images that are being taken, and then pick out the best images and the best angles for the ultrasound. It will also automatically take the images, save the images, overlay the images with a Doppler image that it also takes automatically. And then it will, evaluate those images, produce a report. Potentially, we haven't properly developed that yet, but it will aggregate previous data, because we are dealing with a chronic disease. And then it will file that. I mean, in Denmark, it already files it in the electronic patient journal. So in Denmark, for example, it's a seamless process. The patient goes in and is is for when they do this the first time, they instructed on how to put ultrasound gel on, because that can be a bit tricky and a bit messy. But other than that, it's actually a really simple process. I mean, Arthur talks to you, and it visually and verbally instructs the patient, and it works very well. I mean, we have, so the experience we typically have is that at the first time you have patients requiring that help with the ultrasound gel. On the second visit, they are still very excited while they're being scanned. And on the third visit, it's, easy peasy, and they are almost a little bit bored that it isn't more difficult. So maybe we'll also have to come up with some additional things that, Arthur could do while the patients are being scanned. And those could be, for example, recording, some of the patient self-reported outcomes, or other things that could be done in that time while the patient just calmly has their hand on the screen.
Yeah, no, it definitely sounds like a really user-friendly robot and AI that you've created there. Obviously, with products like this, there's a lot of sort of regulation that you have to go through to actually get it onto the market.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you started it in 2019, and then in 2021, you submitted your first products for CE marking in the EU. Just sort of how difficult is that process when it comes to AI and robotics?
Yeah, I mean, that process is, of course, very challenging. I mean, what we are producing here is a novel type of product, and therefore it is very challenging. I mean, both Arthur and Diana are CE marked now, and it took us quite a while to do that. I still think we were fast, but of course it's an important process, and it's a process that takes time. We also did this during COVID, which probably impacted this as well, because you obviously had a lot of people on sick leave, and many of the processes in the certifying bodies also didn't work as they normally would. So yeah, this is really important. It's not easy, but we made it, and we hope that in maybe a year we also start by working on the FDA approval process.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, that was going to be sort of my next question in terms of the future. Obviously, you're working in the EU at the moment, but you're looking to expand into the US at some point in the near future.
Yes, yeah, we absolutely looking to also expand into the US. I think for now it's great to have a start here in Europe. I mean, we are based in Denmark, so we're now we have the first installations in Denmark running, and we are also going to have an installation in Germany probably towards at the end of the year. As a first installation, which is really exciting for me. I mean, I was born and raised in Germany, so it's exciting to be back there and have Arthur there too. Yeah, so this is all super exciting, and I mean, yeah.
Yeah, no, it sounds amazing, and yeah, as I can imagine how excited you are to take a product that you've worked with back to your home country. So yeah, that sounds great. Obviously, there is a relationship that you need to have with the hospitals and clinicians when it comes to a product like this. Just sort of how challenging is it to sort of work together and really make the clinicians and people understand how to use this robot?
Yeah, so I think generally I must say I'm really thankful how nice and how open the clinicians are towards Arthur. I think it is in my career, I previously I have never experienced sort of luminaries in their field get back to me this fast. So that's fantastic. Like with Arthrex, I also sometimes really ran after clinicians, and it felt very, very tough to get some of their attention. And here with Arthur, we are actually getting a lot of attention, and it is it is very helpful also for us at this stage, to be in touch with clinicians, and ideally constantly, because they have so much input. We have created, I think, a really novel piece of equipment and a novel, way of working because of this, autonomous way that our product, functions as. But that means that we also have to find out, what is the ideal workflow? Who is the, where should Arthur stand? Who should be in charge of Arthur? How do we book Arthur? There are so many questions and also so many things that we today don't have answers for, where we are still, I think at this point, we probably have still almost equal amounts of questions to answers that we've got in the meantime. So it's super important to have this dialogue and to hear, when I have a conversation with a doctor, I always try to have giant ears and really try to listen to what is it that they actually want, what is it that they actually mean, and ask as many clarifying questions as I can without sounding like an interrogator. So yeah, having contact with them is invaluable. It's incredibly important.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. And the feedback you've had so far, sort of just how positive has that been?
The feedback is super positive. In terms of discussing it with the clinicians, I think we would there are, of course, everybody has some doubts, and there's also let's say there are things that they wish that Arthur could do already that Arthur can't do yet. But that is typically for me very comforting, because if somebody talks to me about things they would like in addition, that means that they kind of accept the achievements that we've produced so far. So we were recently at a meeting for imaging in rheumatology, and it was nice. Like when this very experienced lady said, "Yeah, those images are really cool." That was almost a bit surprising for me how enthusiastic she was about how good the images were that Arthur is taking. And many doctors are actually very surprised how good the images are. So that's fantastic. I think the bigger challenge that we still have right now is, who is going to pay for it? How do we best do this? Should this be part of the normal statutory health insurance? Should we focus mostly on the privately insured patients in, let's say, Germany? Should we make it a co-payment, an out-of-pocket payment? I think in healthcare this is always a super important question. Who is paying already potentially for it? Who could be paying for it? And how can you make a business model work that will benefit all sides?
Yeah, and like I say, there is a number of challenges and hurdles to overcome to sort of really get a product into the market. Sort of in your position as CEO, what would you say that the biggest challenge for you personally has been?
Well, I joined the company when I think let's say the stock market and the financial environment were souring a little bit. So I think personally, like one of the more challenging things has been we've been in fundraising mode for quite a while also, and that has been challenging. I don't think it's currently the easiest market to raise funding in. But we are about to successfully close a round, which is really good. So I hope that by the time of publication of this, the round will have closed, and then we will be funded for at least 18 months. We also still have a lot of potential grants coming in, so soft funding, which would be very helpful. So I think that has been the biggest challenge. I think normally it would also be a huge challenge to recruit talent, actually, this space, because when you're trying to create something new, it's not so easy to find good people for that, let alone, I mean, you're not going to find experts. So I think we're super lucky that, in our two founders, we have already a lot of expertise, medical expertise in CERN, Andreas Just, who is the rheumatologist co-founder, and in Fusius Rajit Zavrimutu, who's our CTO and who's a professor in robotics and AI. And then, of course, it was a big help. We are based still at the university that we were spun out of, which is the University of Southern Denmark, SDU, and we are on campus. So we have our offices there, and of course, that's attractive to student workers. It's considered to be a top-notch robotics, university, and we also we attract some of the best guys that come out of SDU in robotics and AI, and I think that has been a big help for us. But most companies are probably not in such a lucky position. It's very lucky that we are based where we are based.
Yeah, no, definitely sounds like you have a great pick of talent that you can sort of work with from the university. You mentioned there sort of how important the funding situation is. Obviously, congratulations. Hopefully, when the season's in,
fingers crossed.
Yeah. Just how important will that be for the future of ROPCA and the growth plans over the next 18 months?
Yeah, I mean, that's super important. In my view, when you're selling something that hasn't been before, it is, unless I show, I mean, of course I can show Arthur as a video and somebody will also understand it that way, but it's much more powerful if I bring Arthur somewhere and I can, have people experience Arthur. And see it firsthand and have patients being scanned and hear what are they saying, what is their feedback. That is important to get the attention, especially of the people sitting with the purse strings in healthcare systems. If I go and provide somebody with a PowerPoint or a brochure, I don't think I can get technologically as advanced and therefore also not as cheap machine as I have into that hospital. So for us, it is paramount importance to do trials at hospitals, and for that we need, of course, the machines, and we are happy. And KUKA has been also very supportive. KUKA is the maker of our robotic arm, but we need those machines to be out there and convince the guys sitting with the purse strings, the directors of those clinics. And of course, also we need clinical studies, and we can only perform clinical studies if we have machines out. So it is not a type of company that you can found and fund on a shoestring. It's unfortunately something that requires also some investment and capital.
Yeah, and like I say, with the way the market's going, AI is obviously huge. Just look at sort of generative AI, ChatGPT. It's becoming a lot more mainstream these days. There's a lot more companies looking to get involved with that. Do you feel like that's going to hugely benefit the healthcare industry as well, with more mainstream companies looking to get involved with companies in that industry?
I mean, I think it has a lot of potential, and I imagine that it must have an impact. I'm not sure exactly, how big the impact will be, but in healthcare, it's always a little bit of a different, animal. It's not as easy to just use something that that works with consumers and consumer industries. But I do think, I mean, it must have big potential. There's so much, so much work being done on documentation, etc., where probably a generative AI could perform certain functions. I generally also think that there is a lot of potential still in healthcare, and potential that we need to realize. So we need to we need to make healthcare, better and faster and also somehow cheaper. So I think we have a lot of work to do still. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, we're still relatively in the infancy of AI and what the future could bring. For ROPCA itself, what are your future goals, and what's the short-term and long-term ambition for the company?
Well, the short-term ambition is, to make Arthur a success where essentially the product is right now. To the short-term ambition is to now have a certain level of market penetration, have some innovators work with us and bring this to patients. And then the medium goal is to become the sort of the one-stop shop in the hand. There's a lot of people that have hand pain. I think the estimate is about 30% of us will have hand pain. And Arthur could be a beautiful first destination for that hand pain, and then sending people into more or less always the right directions. And I think that would already help many people. So that would be our sort of medium-term goal, where we then can also perform a differential diagnosis and have more therapeutic areas than we currently do. So osteoarthritis, maybe psoriatic arthritis, carpal tunnel syndrome, things that you can do on the hand. And then the long-term ambition is that we become a company that greatly improves and expands the availability of ultrasound. And ultrasound is the most benign modality. I mean, it is a very inexpensive tool. It is typically mobile when you compare it to a CT or an MRI scanner. It has many options to take images. You can take on moving structures, you can take images. So it's a fantastic modality that I think really suffers from being user dependent. First of all, you don't have so many users because you need to teach them for a long time. And then secondly, it's also, there's a lot of inter-user variability because they are not performing it every time the same, and some people are talented, some people maybe less so. So, we really want to bring this, consistent, objective ultrasound to additional fields. And we want to productize some of the maybe tougher to do applications. So, I mean, in orthopedics, where I previously worked, there are doctors that can diagnose the torn ACLs with ultrasound. It's not the mass. I mean, most people can't. So I think we could really lift ultrasound in many areas too, and could have really big impact with that.
Oh, amazing! Yeah, it sounds like you've made a good start to that progress, and with Arthur and Diana, it sounds like you're going to make a huge impact in the market. I guess for you personally, Johan, what does the future hold for you? Are you really looking forward to continuing the journey with ROPCA?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very excited about ROPCA, and it's such a great pleasure when you have a product that that is good. That the doctor typically thinks is good for the patient, that most doctors at least also think is good for them. I mean, you obviously when you come with robots and AI, there's always also some people that are afraid of whether they are technically able to operate with such a system, or whether they are, whether is it going to replace me. But I think there's no chance of that happening, because currently the weights are so huge that I can't see that happening. But so I think it is just fantastic to have such innovative technology and to bring something like that to the world. And that's what typically makes my day. I come to work feeling really excited about the product and about bringing this to doctors. And then it's it is again it's a positive circle. If you then meet a doctor and they find it exciting, then even more exciting for me.
Yes.
So I sometimes feel like a really happy and excited person there, but it's wonderful. I mean, I think this is partly why we work in healthcare. You know, we want to make a difference.
Yeah, and it's so clear to see your passion for this product come through. And yeah, I wish you the best of luck with getting it through to the next stage and getting that seed funding come through. And yeah, like I say, hopefully within the next few weeks you'll be able to share some real positive news.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on today, Johan. And yeah, wish you the best of luck with ROPCA. And I hope to see it in the news in the next few weeks and months ahead. That's really making an impact in the healthcare industry. But yeah, really appreciate your time, and thank you very much for being a guest on the podcast today.
Thank you, Toby. That's really kind of you, and thank you for having me. It was a very nice conversation.
Perfect. Well, look, that's it for today. Thank you to all the listeners for tuning in. Stay tuned for the next episode that will be out shortly.